What's good, everyone? Hope everyone is well. Thank you so much for checking out the breakdown. I'm your man, Dr. L. In today's episode, we're going to speak about, or we're going to address and review Senator Josh Hawley versus Kash Patel, Cash Money Patel, director of the FBI, on the Charlie Kirk shooting. So I'm looking forward to this. I did another video about his being grilled by other individuals. But I wanted to do this one special because it's 46 minutes and we'll see how long it takes. Before we get into it there, make sure you hit the like button. That's most importantly, hit the like button, right? Hit the like button, y'all. Hit the like button and all that kind of good stuff. Where's my like button out here? Where's my like button on? Hit the like button. Somebody asked me about the patches I have on the wall there. I am collecting more patches. I never did it when I was a police officer, but if you have any patches, right, military, law enforcement, I some postal inspectors I know, send me a patch. You want to send me a patch? I'd be glad to put it up on the wall. You can send it to LMH Consulting Services, PO Box 3034, Waterbury, Connecticut 06705. Those are for police officers, anyone involved in law enforcement, corrections officers. Shoot, I'll even put some fire department patches up there. You'll know how police and fire often get along. You can follow me on other platforms, Dr. L's podcast. I talk about mostly relationships and self-improvement there. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, you can go over there. And Faith and Justice, where a friend of mine who is a theologian, we're talking about social issues and things like that. Some occasion we'll do a movie review. So that we're trying to grow that platform as well. All right, that's enough of that. Let's get into it here. Josh Hawley. Last time I watched Josh Hawley, he was asking a professor, I think she was a law professor, to define a woman and all kind of crazy stuff. That was the last time I saw him. So I don't sit around. I don't sit around watching these all the time, but I think this will be a pretty good one here. So let's share the screen here. This is a explosive Senate clash. Josh Hawley versus Cash Money Patel. His name is it sounds so much like a rapper's name, Cash Money. All right. Well, it's not Cash Money. It's just Cash Patel. All right. So here we go. Let's react to this here. I have not watched this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Director Patel, good to see you. Thank you for being here. You're leading the FBI at a very critical time for that agency and also a critical time for our country. And I want to start by talking to you about the tide of violence that we have seen, ideological violence against people of faith, particularly Christians. You just think here, take a rough catalog. Just in the last couple of years, we've seen at the Covenant School, Christian School in Nashville. We've seen school shooting at the Annunciation School. We've seen church shootings multiply. We've seen acts of crime and violence, vandalism, arson against churches and parishes all across the country. And then, of course, last week, Charlie Kirk.
Is he including black churches in his analysis there? Synagogues, mosques? Is he including any of that? Or is it just Christians?
Who said, I want to be remembered for my courage, for my faith, was shot on a college campus. Let me just start with the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Is the FBI, and I appreciate the tremendous work the FBI has done in this investigation, is the FBI investigating the Kirk assassination as part of this broader pattern of anti-religious, anti-Christian violence?
We are investigating Charlie's assassination fully and completely and running out every lead related to any allegation of broader violence. And we're producing results on that we'll disclose when appropriate.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Let me just ask you a few questions about that if I could.
That's a much better answer than the other ones he's been given. Again, I've done another video about 4 or 5 different scenarios there. So he answered the question pretty well there. You can't just focus on Christians. Josh Hawley should know this. But if there's any attacks on any religious institutions, they should all be investigated equally and fairly.
Good. Sure. Reports have suggested that the FBI is investigating a broader network of groups that may have had some knowledge of the shooter's plans. Can you give us any details on that, following up what you already said in public? How's the FBI working to find other potential accomplices, folks who may have known about the shooter's plans, folks who may have encouraged him? Any update on any of that?
Why don't you tell us what you're doing, therefore, that we can better help the people who did this to hide? What kind of a question is that?
So in terms of what we do for an interrogation perspective, we go and reach out to the family and community immediately. And we've conducted those investigations and interrogations with local law enforcement. And we're continuing to do that because those closest to the suspect are going to hopefully know the most about the suspect and his beliefs and his ideology. On top of that, unfortunately, it has been leaked that there was a Discord chat. And for those unfamiliar with it, it's a gaming chat room online that the suspect participated in. So what we've already done is serve legal process, not just on Discord, so that the information we gathered is sustained and held in a evidentiary posture that we could use in prosecution should it be decided to do so. And we're also going to be investigating anyone and everyone involved in that Discord chat.
Okay, very good.
I thought that he had released that, but I could be wrong about that. I could be wrong about that. I thought that he had released that, or that was part of the process there. And again, I've talked about this on another video that I did, talking about all these different methods and methodologies and putting these posts up. Oh, we got the suspect. Oh, we don't have the suspect. I just thought all that was incompetence in all honesty. But hopefully they've learned from that mistake. You got to let these things play out and formulate a press conference rather than tweeting everything or Xing everything or whatever it's called now. It's just nonsense to me.
Good. I see the public reports that the Discord thread had as many as 20 additional users. It sounds like you're trying to run down all of that, see if that's accurate, who else may have been on that thread, what they may have known. Is that fair to say?
It's a lot more than that. We're running them all down.
It's a lot more than 20?
Yes, sir.
And you're running all of that?
Every single one.
Yeah, fantastic. Let me just turn to the broader question here of anti-religious, anti-Christian violence. Let me just give you a few stats that I'm sure that you're all too familiar with. Every person of faith in America certainly is. Major report this past year found that there have been over 400 instances of hostility against churches in the United States in the year 2024. Those included arsons, bomb threats, shootings, and firearm incidents.
Just curious to see, is he including blacks in those as well? Black churches, blacks, African American churches, houses of worship. I'm just curious, is he including in his over 400 number there those against those particular places? And that's just churches, but you can't forget about synagogues, mosques, temples, any other places or houses of religious worship.
One other organizational report found that there were 500 attacks on Catholic parishes alone. So that number 415, that's all Christian churches in 2024. Another organization found 500 separate attacks on just Catholic parishes since May of 2020. Of course, we had the Covenant school shooting, the Annunciation school shooting in Minnesota, where 2 children were shot dead as they were praying in a pew. Here's my question. What is the FBI doing to take on this rising tide of violence that seems to be motivated by anti-religious hatred?
Specifically, sir, we've had 60 anti-Catholic hate crime incidences.
I don't have a problem with any of that. Take on people who are trying to target those who have an anti-religious and or specifically anti-Christian bias. I don't have any problem with that. But let's not forget about black folks and the rise in hate crimes against black folks. We did something about Asian hate bill, which should have been passed. We got to do something. You can't gut these particular services in the FBI and then expect the same amount of productivity. But let's listen to his answer here.
Reported to us that are being investigated publicly. I can tell you we have 5 hate crime investigations with anti-Catholic bias ongoing currently in the states, in the cities of Kansas City, Louisville, Houston, Nashville, and Richmond. That's what I can say publicly. But any ideologically based attack against any faith, as a man of faith myself, will not be tolerated. And the full resources of the FBI are committed to all of it.
Are you investigating any domestic cells that instigate or encourage or fund or in any way support attacks on churches or other houses of worship?
Senator,
or black folks, or Asian folks, or Hispanic folks, or LGBT? You targeting those groups that do that?
you raised an incredibly important point that most people don't look at. I've always said we follow the money, and whether it's terrorism or attacks based on ideology or attacks on institutions of faith or people of faith, someone's paying for it, and we are reverse tracing those steps. We are not stopping at the perpetrator themselves. We are reverse engineering to hold those accountable in our investigations to who funded them and knowingly funded them, and we will bring the appropriate steps against them with our partners at DOJ.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. We look forward to hearing reports on that progress. Yeah.
I've had some members say,
Sorry about that.
Let me just ask you this in the same vein, Director. Since the Dobbs decision, the FBI has advertised $25,000 rewards for information on attacks on abortion clinics. Will the FBI similarly offer rewards for information on attacks of houses of worship?
Yes, when it is appropriate, the rewards are any reward, whether it's an attack on a house of faith or on a homicide or whatever, is determined by a group within the FBI, but we will work with them to make sure that rewards of monetary value are put out for all ideologically based attacks.
Good. You just rattled off some statistics, which I was glad to hear about the number of investigations you have open, the incidents you're tracking against Christians, against houses of worship. Let me just ask you if you consider designating a senior official as a liaison to houses of worship, to Christian other religious organizations, to publish metrics on investigations.
This guy just can't stop saying Christian. I'm not opposed to that, but just say houses of worship. Just say that, right? And if there's more than if there's attacks on Catholics or evangelicals and the black churches, right? They got to be, target those people, right? And don't be afraid wherever these homegrown domestic terrorists are or homegrown violent extremists. Don't be afraid to attack them and follow the money and all that kind of stuff when they are attacking African American people and or their religious organizations and institutions.
And arrests related to church attacks, church threats, vandalism, arson, etc. Will you set up a system for liaising and then reporting so that everybody can see, this committee and the public can see just how many attacks we're talking about, just what the level of threat and violence is and what the FBI is doing to combat it?
Senator, you're speaking my language. The private-public sector partnership on this specific issue, just like the other ones we've talked about, is equally transformative to finding those involved in these criminal activities. And with your assistance, I would ask you if you're able to identify someone who's an expert in that area, we will work with them. We will take their information, because as great as the FBI is, we're only as good as the information we can get, and we don't have the reach that the private sector does in some of these areas.
Very good. Happy to help on that. Let me ask you about something specific to the FBI, because sadly, as you know, the FBI, when it comes to anti-religious animus, has been part of the problem before you got to this agency. And I know that you remember the infamous memo generated by the FBI that attempted to recruit informants in houses of worship, in particular in Catholic parishes. Your predecessor testified when this information, I just want to reiterate, this memo became public because of a whistleblower. It was not turned over to this committee. It was not disclosed to this committee. In fact, we were told it didn't exist, and then a whistleblower published it, showing that indeed the FBI had recruited informants, attempted to, into Catholic parishes. Your predecessor then testified, sitting right where you are today, he testified that this, I'm going to quote, was a single product by a single field office, end quote. That was a lie. Because we then had additional whistleblowers come forward and say, no, actually, multiple field offices contributed to the drafting of the report. And indeed, there was a second anti-Catholic memo that the FBI generated. And indeed, those memos were distributed to over 1,000 FBI agents across the country. You know,
I'd like to see this memo. What does it mean to be anti-Catholic? I mean, you're just trying to take down Catholics. And I was reading something the other day. What was I reading? About government intrusion. Oh, this might have been a foreign thing. No, I was reading something about international relations. It doesn't matter. But anyway, what I was reading was about how our own agency, CIA, would go into other countries, particularly in Latin America, and use their religious organizations to subvert their, convince the people and subvert their governments. But that's for another time there.
all of this, you and I talked about it when you were here for your confirmation hearing back in January. I just want to follow up and see, have you been able to determine how this memo got written and distributed? How is it that the Federal Bureau of Investigation came to be recruiting informants in Christian churches in this country?
Informed to do what? I got to read this. I got to read this memo here. All right, so I think this is what they're speaking of, right? This unclassified for official use threat target facilitation platform, FBI Richmond, January 23rd, 2023. Interest of racially or ethnically motivated violent extremist in radical traditional Catholic ideology almost certainly presents new mitigation opportunities. And I'm not going to go through this now, but I may do this at another time. I'm definitely going to do this at another time, right? Some of this is redacted. I'm going to read through this at another time. But this is what this is one of the things that you're talking about here. And for what I understand, and I'm going to read through this just to make sure that I got this right, and from my brief reading of it, and I did do an AI generative summary, as you can see here. So what a lot of people are doing is that what they would do is they will hide in these churches, and because racial ideas are often linked with religiosity, therefore the FBI, I'm assuming I'm going to do a deeper dive into this, so don't hold this to me to this, is going through the churches to find out who is planning these racially or ethnically motivated attacks. I don't have a problem with that. So I don't know if this is what Josh Hawley is speaking about or what, right? So we'll stop that screen share, right? And then here's another one here. We'll put this one up here. Share screen, HJ, this one here. And this is anti-Catholic FBI memo origin revealed as Bureau absolved of malicious intent. Of course, this comes from Fox News, right? So you got to be careful of them, right? So it's not about them being anti-malicious, Catholic, but they're saying they're going into these churches trying to find out who is planning and plotting anti planning and plotting racially and ethically motivated violence against people. I don't have a problem with them doing that. and they were, of course, investigated. So I'm going to do a deeper dive into that, into both of these at another time. So we'll take a look at this here. So, all right, let's get back to this. So let me stop screen share here. Stop screen share. Actually, all right, we'll get back into this here.
Senator, we did dig in, and we are doing our investigation simultaneously with Congress. And just to put it in perspective, we provided 700 documents on the Richmond Catholic memo specifically to this committee, whereas my predecessor provided 19 pages. And not only that, but we looked into how the source recruitment structure at the FBI was conducted during this time. And we made adjustments and permanent fixes to ensure that sources are not put into houses of worship unless there is an actual ongoing criminal or international terrorism threat. We will not use sources at this FBI to investigate and cull information just for the sake of culling information in houses of worship.
Has anybody been fired for this?
There have been terminations related to this and resignations.
Good. There need to be.
Okay. All right. All right. I don't agree with that, but this is what this is. Apparently houses of worship are off limits, and they want to keep them off limits, even if they're going to hide those who are planning racially and ethically motivated attacks. If this is the memo that he's speaking about here,
Because if this is going to be standard at the FBI, nobody can trust the FBI. You want to talk about violating the First Amendment? This has got First Amendment violation written all over it. It's one of the most revolting chapters in the FBI's history. And considering what we're seeing more broadly in terms of the acts of violence against people of faith, this has absolutely got the end. The FBI has to lead the way. So I count on you to do that, Director. Let me just, in the minute or so that I have remaining, let me just shift gears and ask you about something else you said earlier. You said that protecting our youth is maybe the FBI's top priority. It's great to hear. Let me ask you about the role of AI chatbots in that, which you talked about a little bit already today. Are you investigating any cases of AI-generated child sex abuse material? You issued a PSA earlier this year warning that synthetic child sex abuse material, that's where the AI generates it using maybe a real kid's image, but then generates sex abuse material. You warned that was illegal under federal law. Is the FBI investigating any instances of this synthetic CSAM material generated by AI that you could speak to?
We are investigating dozens of those matters because let me just say this, as far as the FBI is concerned, generative AI that produces CSAM, child sexual abuse material, under our investigative authorities is treated as equally as if it were actual child sexual abuse material. There's no difference for me and the FBI on this.
Let me just ask you one other thing in this vein. I'm sure you've seen the reporting that Meta's AI rules, their own internal guidelines, allowed their chatbots to have sensual conversations with children. We've had multiple instances of children, minors, taking their own lives at the behest of chatbots that instructed them with specificity on how to do it. What's the FBI's role here in investigating what is going on with these chatbots, with these AI companies encouraging? I mean, listen, if an actual person did that, we would say that's grooming. We would say that's child abuse. These companies are doing it. Their own guidelines allow it. What can we do about that?
You're referring to NVE, nihilistic violent extremism, and 764. It has been made a priority of the FBI because they are targeting children, and these chatbots and these generative AI are getting coupled with actual humans who are using them and releasing them because they can do the work faster and quicker than humans can and get into spaces like social media where humans have a difficulty in engaging. And what we're doing is treating any extension of generative AI as the criminal themselves. And we have, I think, I've got to get the number back to you, but over 1,000 investigations related to NVE. We've had numerous takedowns and arrests of 764 individuals, and we are educating. This may be the most important part. I'm directly engaging with the social media and media companies, the internet service providers, to find a way to shut down. There's nothing I can do at the FBI to force them to shut it down, but work with you in Congress to find a way to work with our partners to get that shut down permanently.
Senator Coons.
Thank you, Chairman Grassley. Thank you, Chairman, for calling this hearing. I'm grateful we're continuing this.
All right, so this appears to be a bait and switch. The title is Explosive Senate Clash, Hawley versus Kash Patel and Kirk shooting, Charlie Kirk shooting in focus. And this is not what occurred here. So I'm going to fast forward this to to Senator Kennedy. We'll listen to this and we'll call it for the day. But this was a bait and switch, and I'm not happy about that. This is News 18. Never going to focus on them again.
Mr. Director, you and the FBI, working with state and local law enforcement officials in Utah, have caught the assassin of Mr. Charlie Kirk. Is that right?
We have a suspect, yes, sir.
And you did that within 48 hours, did you not?
33 hours.
33 hours. Congratulations. we've had other political assassinations. Back in June, an assassin assassinated Representative Melissa Hoffman, Mr. Hoffman, Senator John Hoffman, and Mrs. Hoffman in Minnesota. You and the FBI and Minnesota state and local law enforcement officials caught the assassin within 48 hours. Did you not?
I believe that timeline's correct, Senator.
Congratulations. Sometimes we miss the forest for the trees. Good work.
Oh, the partisanship is just so garbage. Just Jesus.
Did Mr. Kirk's assassin act alone?
As I've said since the beginning, Senator, it is very much an ongoing investigation, and I can't speak to the state charges. That's for the state to address on their own, but we are providing them with the same investigatory findings reporting the department. And as I noted to Senator, I believe it was Cornyn or Hawley, that there are a number of individuals that are currently being investigated and interrogated, and a number yet to be investigated and interrogated specific to that chat room. So we are very much in our ongoing posture of investigation.
So others could have been involved.
Yes, sir.
I asked you this last time you were here. Cash, you remember Mr. Peter Strzok and Ms. Lisa Page?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Strzok was an FBI agent. Ms. Page was an FBI lawyer. They were both very aggressive anti-Trump political activists who allowed their political opinions to affect their work at the FBI. Is that a fair statement?
I believe their text messages and the testimony that was secured by the OIG and DOJ speak for themselves.
In fact, Mr. Strzok and Ms. Page were having an extramarital affair, and at one point, Ms. Page texted Mr. Strzok, quote, "Trump's not ever going to be president, right? Right?" And Mr. Strzok replied, "No, he won't. We will stop it," end quote. Ms. Page resigned from the FBI. Mr. Strzok was fired. They promptly sued the federal government and the FBI and Justice Department for releasing their emails, which revealed all of this. The FBI settled that lawsuit for $1.2 million, gave Mr. Strzok $1.2 million cash, gave Ms. Page, who resigned. She wasn't fired, she resigned, she quit. Gave her $800,000. Who at the FBI made that decision to give them money?
That settlement was reached in the Biden administration when my predecessor was the director.
Who? Are you saying that Chris Wray did?
The only people that can decide that settlement are the Attorney General in conjunction with the director and the administration.
Okay, so you're telling me that Attorney General Garland and Director Wray decided to give them the money? Is
Yes,
that
sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, when you took over the FBI, did you find instances of where, under the Biden administration, the FBI had weaponized the agency to push the political beliefs of President Biden?
Sorry, the last part.
When you took over the FBI, did you find instances of where the Biden administration had politicized the FBI to prosecute its political agenda?
Well, I won't speak for other people. Having been a target of that weaponization, having been a staffer on the House Intelligence Committee, having had the Justice Department weaponized against me for making the findings and leading the investigation of Russiagate, I know what that feels like. And that's why as the FBI director, I'm committed to not ever have that ever happen again, but I'm also committed to fully investigating what was done, and that matter is still ongoing.
So I take it your answer is yes.
Yes, sir.
And you're firing those people, is that right?
Anyone that politicizes their job at the FBI will not work at the FBI.
Okay. You've heard some of my colleagues either implicitly or otherwise suggest that you have politicized the FBI to prosecute the political beliefs of President Trump. Is that true?
I don't know how that can be true when the stats that I cited, to include the 23,000 arrests, 6,000 weapons seized, 1,600 gang and criminal enterprise organizations, 4,700 children found and rescued, more enough fentanyl seized to kill a third of America. The men and women of the FBI are now on an apolitical mission, and this is why the numbers are historic.
Have you fired people because they voted for Vice President Harris?
I don't ask people who they vote for, and neither does the FBI.
Okay. But you've given people polygraphs, have you not?
Many people in the FBI take polys.
The FBI does that all the time.
Yes, sir.
Does it not?
Yes,
For
sir.
a long time, is that correct?
Decades.
I want to ask you about the Epstein files. Have you seen the Epstein files?
I have not reviewed the entirety of it myself, but a good amount.
Would it be fair to say that Mr. Epstein trafficked young women, including in some instances minors, for sex to himself?
That was specifically the allegations in the 2018 indictment in the Southern District of New York.
Who else did he traffic these young women to?
In terms of what the investigation, again, going back to 2008, Mr. Acosta, who limited the investigation and limited the search warrants and limited the parameters of the investigation, the only thing we are able to speak to publicly, because he was given a non-prosecution agreement by Mr. Acosta, is that first time period from, I believe, don't quote me on this, 97 to 2001-ish. And then when the Trump administration courageously reopened it.
Excuse me for interrupting, but I'm going to run out of time. You've seen most of the files. Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these young women to besides himself?
Himself. There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals. And the information we have, again, is limited.
So the answer is no one
For the information that we have
in the files.
in the case file.
Okay. Now, President Trump has deferred to the FBI and the Department of Justice with respect to the Epstein records. He says it is your call about releasing them.
There's no fireworks here. There's no fireworks here. It was a good answer that he gave concerning, this is what we have. This is information. And if there was anything else or anyone else in the case files, then we would prosecute. That's a good answer.
And I understand that the department and the agency have decided to release them in cooperation with the House committee. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So you're releasing them a little bit at a time. Is that correct?
We're releasing as much as we can, but we are limited by 3 different court orders. And the department went back to each of those judges to waive those court orders or have them lifted, and each of those judges declined.
Will you release all of them, or at least as many as you can?
We will release everything we are legally permitted to do so. We are continuing to work with the House on the subpoena request. We have substantially complied with it, but we will continue to release whatever we are legally permitted to do so.
Okay. I strongly encourage you to do that. Cash, this issue is not going to go away. And I think the central question for the American people is this. They know that Epstein trafficked young women for sex to himself. They want to know who, if anyone else, he trafficked these young women to. And that's a very fair question. I want to know that answer. And I think you're going to have to do more to satisfy the American people's understanding.
I think they want to know not only who he trafficked to, but who was complicit, who, even if they didn't receive the services themselves, who else knew about it. And that's particularly what they want to know about the president. Did he know about it? Did he never say anything about it? Did he never call the police? Did he never tell him to stop? Did he continue to hang out with him when he was doing that? So I don't think it's just about who he trafficked to, but who else was running in these circles, who else received campaign finances, who else knew about this, but yet still continue to be his pal, his buddy, and receive financial services, campaign promises, services, etc., finances, etc. That's also what needs to be disclosed.
Understandable curiosity in that regard.
Mr. Chairman, may I just respond to that? I agree, Senator. And what we have done, and just to remind folks, the Epstein case files existed in the 2 prior administrations, in the Obama administration and the Biden administration. And they didn't release anything. And there was President Trump in the first administration that renewed charges against Mr. Epstein. And I know it's a little complicated to understand, but what exists in the Epstein case files was a direct result of the limited search warrants from 2006 and 7, which hamstrung future investigations because of the non-prosecution agreement. And multiple administrations had the opportunity to look at the entirety of that case file and recommend prosecutions against anyone that was trafficked under Mr. Epstein and anyone that participated in that trafficking. And the only person to bring charges was the prior administration against Mr. Epstein. Now, I am not saying that others were not trafficked and others were not involved. What I am telling you is that based on the information we have, and we have continuously and publicly asked for the public to come forward with more information. If there is, we'll look at it. But based on credible information, we have released all credible information. And the information that the Department of Justice and the FBI never releases is information on investigations that are not credible. And we don't release the names of victims who weren't credible, but in the same time, we don't release the names of victims who were credible. And so the information, that's by law. And so the information we are releasing now is historic, and it is also to the maximum capacity that the law allows. And I know that's not going to satisfy many, many, many people. But if they wanted it done right, then the investigation from its origination should have been done right. And he should not have been given a get out of jail free card to do jail on the weekends for 12 hours a day. And he should have been investigated fully for the entirety of his crime and criminal enterprise, not just from 1997 to 2001.
Senator Blumenthal.
Thank you.
All right, that's it. We're going to call it for today. Thank you so much for checking out the show. I am definitely going to look into this items concerning the going into churches and all that. I'm going to read through those. Hopefully we can get some answers to that, because what I understand on the surface level is that it's to me, I'm okay with that. I understand that there, people want to be able to go into their houses of worship and not have a government in there. I get that. But if they're planning and plotting and using their religious faith as a cover to organize violence against minority communities, racially, ethnically, etc. If they're going to do that, I got no issue with that. So I'm curious about that. I'm going to read through those memos. First I'm hearing about it, so we're going to read through that. Again, you can follow me on other different platforms. Dr. L's podcast, talk about relationships, self-improvement, faith and justice podcast. If you want to send me a patch, I would certainly appreciate it. If you have a family member, you're a police officer yourself, or someone in corrections, or maybe in the military, you want to send me a patch, LMH Consulting Services, P.O. Box 3034, Waterbury, Connecticut 06705. Thank you so much for checking out the show. Make sure you hit the like button. If you have a show idea, make sure you email it to me as I put it in here before. Hit the like button on your way out. Thank you so much. Much love and peace.